Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Week 13 podcast. We've got Sutton with us today. Hi Sutton.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
So there were 3 football games yesterday, but I only chose one of the games, okay?
Okay.
And just so people can see, I'm going to show them that, in fact, I have planned for both Miami and Green Bay. But I'm going to let you choose who we're going to select, whether it be Miami or Green Bay. Who do you want us to talk about? There's a surprise. Are you a Packer fan?
No.
What? What do we say?
Go. Pack. Go.
Right. Do.
Go. Pack. Go.
Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah.
Was it a good game?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you say see you later? So there you have it. You saw that Sutton chose the Packers, which, not a big surprise. I just wanted to show everybody
Emphatically chose Green Bay.
I went into it knowing that she would probably choose the Packers, but I wasn't going to sit there and only write down Packer stats. All of a sudden she goes, "Oh, I like the pretty colors."
Yeah.
But
I've been doing my job.
Yeah, she is a Packer fan. So interesting game last night.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami attempted a comeback. They got themselves in a deep hole because they couldn't throw the ball. They couldn't move the ball in the first half.
Yeah.
And, Tua ended up with some really nice stats, as did other guys, but, they weren't scoring the points.
Yeah.
So Green Bay had Jordan Love going 21 of 28 for 274 yards, 2 touchdowns, never ran the ball.
Wow. I guess I didn't realize that.
I didn't either until I was doing the stats, and I was like, we had 4 guys that ran the ball. It was Jacobs, it was Brooks, it was Emmanuel Wilson, and Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
And each of them had more yardage than either Achane or Mostert rushing.
Wow.
And Achane and Mostert led their team in rushing.
Yeah.
So, Mostert put up 19, and Achane put up 14 rushing.
Yeah.
So the Packers did what they needed to do. They stopped the run and forced Tua to throw under poor conditions.
Yep.
Although, the poor conditions are...
They were an average day in Green Bay, but poor conditions for the Dolphins. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Poor conditions as in they aren't accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Obviously Love had no issues.
Well, it's no different than, when it's, September, beginning of September, and teams are having to go down to Miami when it's, 105 with 80 or 98% humidity. It's just the inverse, So
right. Or having to go to Denver and being a mile high up and unable to catch your breath.
Yep.
So, 75% for Love. I believe he had 133 QB rating for the game, which was, a really well played game by him.
Yeah, and the minus the no rushing yards, there's one big stat that's usually tagged at the end of that stat line.
2 weeks in a row that he hasn't thrown an interception, which is interesting because each of the first 10 games he had thrown an interception. So he's trending the right way. He's also back to not being injured.
Correct,
and I think the injury might have played a part in some of those poor decisions, and it's hard to say.
Yep.
Then we've got we've got Josh Jacobs, 4 catches on 4 targets for 74 yards, 19 rushes, 43 yards, and a touchdown.
Nice.
not a great rushing performance. However, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had talked about maybe earlier this week or last week that Jacobs, hasn't been super involved in the, maybe involved but not putting up yardage in the pass game.
Last week I don't think he had any catches.
But I mean, the 3 touchdowns helped.
Right. Yeah, he was our one of our studs, but he had 0 passes thrown to him.
Yeah. So
and this week he goes 4 for 74 yards, which is great.
He broke off that 40, it was a 40-yarder or something, But yeah, so nice to see him getting, breaking one, showing that explosiveness, and in a game where he didn't have to be the hero, I guess, the Superman this week. So
right. Then we had Tucker Kraft, who caught 6 of 7 targets for 78 yards. Always seemed to be in the right spot, dependable.
Yeah,
making the plays.
Seems to always break that first tackle. I don't know what it is. He always seems to fight through that initial tackle and then, get more yards after contact.
Right. Much like last week against San Fran, where they had just a huge number of missed tackles. There were a whole bunch of missed tackles in this game, too. I mean, double digits and, a very poor performance. Again, it's cold out there. Do I really want to throw my arm out and try and knock a guy who's coming at me, who's, moving well and my arms are cold?
Yes,
they're going to break in half.
No, I know, not that bad. I loved playing in cold football games. And, in high school, it's hitting weather is what we used to say.
Yeah,
you get a little numb, and you can.
Yeah, I guess so.
Bring the pain a little.
I guess
bit
they
more.
must have been a little too numb in the head to actually follow through with that hitting. So next up, we had Watson, who was 2 catches on 4 targets for 67 yards, and one of them was huge.
And not an easy catch either.
And that was pass interference too, right?
Yeah, they declined the PI.
Yeah,
and just took the play. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a great catch.
Yeah.
Even though I think arm was being held down and just a well played.
There was another one that ultimately obviously had no bearing on the outcome of the game, but there was one, I think it was in the 4th quarter, that right in the middle of the field, Love chucked it down there, and the guy got there a little early and bumped him and kind of pinned an arm down, and the refs, didn't throw it. But, so.
Next up, we've got Dontavian Wicks, who showed up a little bit. He was 4 catches on 5 targets and 30 yards. And then we have Jaden Reed. Only 3 catches, 6 targets, 24 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 rush for 23 yards. The yardage wasn't there on those catches, but when you're catching touchdowns, it usually, depending upon where they're being thrown from, 3, 6, 8 yards out.
Yeah.
You don't have to get the yardage. So, I mean, he played a huge part in the victory, obviously.
Yeah, the 2 touchdowns. I mean, like we've talked about, Green Bay, obviously since Devontae's left, we don't have the true number one, I'm not going to lie, it would be nice to have somebody like that. Like I said, you see the yardage totals and, Tucker Kraft coming out on top, your tight end for 78 yards, which he's a very good, pass catching tight end.
Right.
But, only 2 catches, only 4 targets, for Watson, 5 for Wicks, 6 for Jaden Reed. Those are healthy targets, but, like Watson, the talent's there, the athleticism's there. You'd like to see maybe a couple more manufactured plays for him, kind of what they do with Reed, but stuff, they take some shots with him here and there. And obviously, last week he dropped that 50-yarder touchdown, easy touchdown. But, I think with Watson is trying to rebuild that confidence he had when he had that 3-game run where he had 7 touchdowns,
something like that,
in 3 games
at the end of last year,
or
middle to end of last year,
So it'd be nice to maybe see a little bit more design for him as well, get him a little more involved.
Yeah, so. My favorite thing is he hasn't been out with the hamstring issue this year.
Well, they fixed it. He had
I know.
He had an imbalance or whatever it was. Yeah,
it's hard to believe. it's hard to believe that guys who have hamstring issues could go and find a solution such as this, where
There was somebody else.
that percentage. Yeah, there was another.
Was it Kamara?
No, I think
that-
it was. I think Keyshawn Nixon or something, or Stokes for the Packers.
Oh, I was going to
also-
say there was another. I want to say it was Alvin Kamara had this. I think he had the same thing. It was
Gotcha.
something like that where he had some sort of imbalance in his, muscle in his hammies or whatever. And
Yeah, but I believe
Yeah,
we sent
but yeah.
Stokes there this past
Yeah,
summer too.
yeah.
And to figure out that you've got a 27% imbalance or whatever it was, and now it's down to like 6 or 9%, and it's enough such that you don't compensate and then put too much pressure on that hamstring and pull it.
yeah.
So, moving on, we've got our picks of the week. At QB, CBS says that it's Burrow, Mahomes, and I don't know why I put Mahomes in there because he played today.
Yep.
Jackson, Mayfield, Allen, and Daniels. And I am going to go with Hurts.
Yep.
Need to rent a car, so Enterprise had all theirs taken. So
Yep.
Hurts at Baltimore. Third most points given up by or to an opposing quarterback is Baltimore.
Yeah. They score points, but they also get a lot of points scored on them. So,
They do. And they have not been playing that well of late.
yep.
And I think we had talked about that. And, I see it being a fairly high scoring game,
Yeah, I mean, you've got.
depending upon the weather.
Yes, weather. I mean, Philly's defense has been. I mean, they've been one of the top defenses for the last month now. But
Right.
they did. I think they did lose. Darius Slay's got a concussion. I think he's been ruled out already, or he's progressing, or through. I think he's progressing through the protocol right now. So,
Gotcha.
but probably a good chance he misses. And then Brandon Graham, who last week was. Who did they play again last week?
Philly?
Philly. Was it the Chargers? Not the Chargers. No.
I do not remember.
I can't remember, but it seemed like every play Brandon Graham was in the backfield. It was the Rams, right? Was it Eagles Rams last week?
If you say so.
I think it was, but it
I'm
just seemed
drawing
like
a blank.
Brandon
I
Graham
don't-
was in the backfield, disrupting the play, getting a sack, whatever. I mean, he was playing really well, but he tore his tricep, so he's
okay.
out for the season.
Yeah, I struggled to think about what I had for breakfast today. So
So
last week,
yeah, yep. So I mean, yeah, Hurts against Baltimore. There's they're gonna need to score points, and obviously Hurts is the quarterback. Similar to like Josh Allen, where you can have 3 rushing touchdowns. And I mean, he's done it many many times.
he hasn't done it a lot this year.
Yeah, I mean, you get Saquon in there, and
Yep.
and you get a fully healthy AJ Brown as well. So
Yep.
yeah, I that matchup you want pieces of if you've got it. So
I got lots of pieces.
all right, so I'm going CJ Stroud against Jacksonville. Hasn't been what coming into the season what people drafted him. I mean, he was getting taken as like the 3rd
Yep.
quarterback,
Yep.
in drafts. So, and he's
Yeah, but Mahomes
Obviously.
was being taken about the same spot, and he stinks.
true. Yeah. I mean, obviously Stroud, you lose Nico Collins early in the season,
Right.
and he was out for most of it. You got him back now.
You've lost Diggs.
You lost Diggs. Yeah. I mean, Dalton Schultz is slow. Mixon's been for the most part really good as running the ball. So
Outside of last week.
takes it out of Stroud's hands sometimes. Doesn't
Right.
need to do a whole lot. But,
Right.
you
The running game is definitely improved from last year.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and then you get, now you've got Nico back, and Stroud's been average, but
Well-
the first week. But you look at it, the first week back, 77-yard touchdown, first play,
back.
called back. Last week,
50-some yard
called back. Both Nico Collins touchdowns.
Right.
So you add those and the yardage, and then he becomes, obviously better.
Right.
But, above average. So, and against Jacksonville, I think Stroud has actually played very, very well. He's kind of owned them.
Okay.
Or did last year, and then I
Well,
think
apparently-
earlier this season as well.
Apparently, Lawrence is going to play, is what I heard. So
Helps keep the game
right,
interesting.
right. I mean, as opposed to being a blowout, it actually could be a higher scoring game because it's closer.
Yep.
So, and it's in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
always nice to play down in the warmth.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got running backs. The CBS chooses Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Mixon, Derrick Henry, Kyron, and CMC. I wonder where Pacheco was. But and Pacheco didn't do a whole lot today, nor did Mahomes as the number 2 quarterback in their mind. I decided to go with Alvin Kamara against the Rams at home. The Rams are the 6th worst at giving up points to running backs.
Yep.
I just, the things he can do, it all depends. It depends on what Taysom does. And CBS has Taysom listed as the number 1 tight end this weekend. It may be that Taysom does what he did a couple weeks ago, where he accounted for like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Kamara isn't doing much. But I have a feeling that Kamara will get his piece this week also.
Yeah, and that should be a pretty good matchup as well. I mean, for the Saints, you've had MVS come off the streets and be that deep threat that Derek Carr, has been missing with Shaheed.
Right.
Shaheed
being out.
Yep. And I mean, I even in a DraftKings lineup that I made last night, I threw MVS in the flex because he's one of the, he's seemingly, 2 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns, so far. So, like I said, should be a pretty good matchup. The Saints defense has not been very good. I mean, that's why they got Kyron ranked up pretty high. I mean, Kamara, again, like you said, it all hinges on Taysom Hill and,
and with Derek Carr.
That too.
I mean, if Carr is able to hit him out of the backfield like he normally does, it could be a lot of points for Kamara.
Yeah. So I'm going with Bucky Irving against Carolina. Obviously, the matchup's great. I mean, Carolina's been playing better the last couple of weeks. Obviously,
I think they're the worst run defense.
Yeah, they are. So that's why, and Bucky last week showed why he should be, their primary running back.
However,
Rashad White's still involved.
Quite a bit.
Well, Bucky only had 12 carries in that game, but it was for, I can't remember how many rush yards. And then he caught I think it was 6 of 6 in the passing game for quite a few yards as well.
Yeah.
Got vultured on the touchdown by Sean Tucker on the 1, where Bucky had caught the pass, took it down to the 1. Tucker
usually you like to see the guy rewarded for what he did.
Yes, finish. Let him score that touchdown. And then the next time Bucky got dragged down at the 1, they brought in Sean Tucker, who then fumbled.
Right.
So hopefully the Sean Tucker thing is done. It probably won't be, but I'm hoping because I've got Bucky.
I'm playing against Bucky in one, and I've got him in one.
Yep.
So it's tough.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think the matchup. I mean, like we said, Carolina's offense has actually been playing pretty good as of the last 2 weeks, really.
Yeah. Should have beaten or easily could have beaten Kansas City last week.
Yep, who should have lost to the Raiders today. You know, so, but yeah, I mean, could end up being a somewhat, close game. And then even if it's a blowout, Bucky's going to get his touches. So, and he's, like I said, last week, the eye test is so glaringly obvious that Bucky needs to be their first running back out there. And then Rashad White,
that might be
they need to move on after this season from Rashad
that
White.
might be my problem. I might need a new eye test.
Yeah.
So the eye test on me. No. Next up, we've got the wide receivers. We've got Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, and Brian Thomas II.
CBS is all in on the Bengals this week, huh?
They are. And yeah. I am going to go with A.J. Brown. I'm going to stack. They are Baltimore is the...
That's crazy that, and I mean, CBS, you figured that Brian Thomas would be swapped with A.J. Brown at least, at the very least.
Yeah, but going against Baltimore, their tops had given up third at giving up points to the quarterback, and Tops at giving up points.
I see
to
what
the,
you did here.
Yeah, Tops
see
giving
what
up
you
points
did
to
here.
the wide receivers. So I figured if anyone's gonna do well, it's
Potentially
gonna be him.
no Devonta Smith again because
Yep.
he had the hamstring, and sounds like I guess I haven't looked, but what
Yeah,
I
I
heard last, he wasn't practicing yet, or was very limited with it. So, and AJ Brown, I mean, you saw last week where he got a little frustrated, and then they went to him like back-to-back times, trying to get him a touchdown, and then he had the one that was borderline where he drug the toe. He had the ball, the defender came and hit it as he was going out of bounds, and then the ball came out, and it was
Gotcha.
it was one of those weird well, he got the 2 feet in and he had possession at the time, and then as he went out of bounds, the ball came out. The defender hit his arm.
Had he already made two? Had he made a
It was
football move?
the foot down and the toe drag.
Okay, so it
going
was
out.
in the hands, and
Yes,
so he
he
didn't
had
make
it.
a football play.
Yes, he had it
Gotcha.
out in front of him, and then as he was going out of bounds, the ball, the defender came in and hit it.
Yeah.
They looked at it, and they ultimately ruled it a touchdown. But then later in the
okay.
game, they tried to get him a second one
Yeah.
because you could tell he was a little upset, and and it does at times. It's frustrating watching the Eagles because AJ Brown. It seems like Jalen. When he starts his progression, obviously it's left to right. Well, they'll put AJ Brown on the right, and Jalen will never make it through his progression, and then AJ Brown will be wide open down the field, and you're like, just one more read, but so it gets a little frustrating. But he's so good, and again, this could be a combined. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a combined 70 points or more in this game.
I easily see
potentially.
60 something.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of fantasy points scored in this game. And
Yeah.
I think AJ Brown will be,
Well, good. I've got him in 2 of my leagues, so
Yeah.
I could really use that.
yeah, I need it too. So I'm going with somebody that I don't think we've really talked about a whole lot, who's been really solid this season, actually, pretty quietly, is Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
Going against Cleveland.
Big couple of games the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Bo Nix has, since week 5 or 6, he's the number 3
Wow.
fantasy quarterback.
Wow.
Been playing really, really well.
And Denver is playing really
yes, yeah. You got that strong defense, and and really Cortland Sutton's been kind of their only option.
Right.
They got Mims and Troy Franklin, and I don't even know who their starting tight end is anymore. And the running backs have been absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
You've had one spike week from Javonte, but other than
Audric
that,
Esteem.
yeah, which when everybody thought he was going to be given the reins, and then
he
it was
wasn't.
Javonte again, and
Yeah, I can't think of who their tight end is because I had drafted
Dulcich, which he got signed by New York. If you didn't know,
Oh, I did
the
not.
New York Giants.
I didn't know they let him go.
Yeah, the New York Giants. Well, I think he was just on like their practice squad or something forever.
Oh.
And the Giants signed him.
I did
Yeah.
not know that.
I think it was like just either today or yesterday or something like that. So, but yeah, like I said, anyways, Cortland Sutton's been super consistent. He's been having some pretty nice fantasy games. I hope it doesn't happen though, because I am playing against him in the playing against him in the Yahoo League.
And you
against
chose
Brit.
him.
I did. So
Wow. Okay.
Is
that like a-
I'm trying to get some good karma here, because I actually texted Brittany this morning and I said, against my better judgment, you need to go and drop Tajay Spears and pick up Braylon Allen, because she has Breece Hall. If Breece Hall misses time, Braylon Allen immediately comes in and he's the 3-down back for the Jets. Granted, their offense hasn't been that great, but their running back schedule for the rest of the year is literally the best for fantasy. So I said, against my better judgment, just do this. She made the move, so I'm hoping I get like good karma to where, it doesn't pan out for her, kind of.
Wow.
Because in the past,
Hopefully you're not listening,
in the past,
Brett.
yeah, in the past I would have just vultured that, like
Yeah, of
real
course
hard.
you
I would have just vultured that,
course you would've.
and picked him up. But you know. So yeah, but I think, you know, the way Denver's been playing and the way Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix have that connection against Cleveland, which again, I mean, it depends on what Jameis shows up. You know, this is another game that, you know, as good as Denver is, Jameis could still go out and throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
But that defense has been stopping people left and right.
But like I said, that's why it depends on what Jameis shows up. You get the 3 touchdown or you get the 3 interception Jameis. So,
I had a guy contact me, a buddy of mine contact me last week, and he's like, do I play D-Hop or do I play Cortland Sutton? And I said, you play Cortland Sutton, even though D-Hop is turning into the top receiving choice outside of the tight ends in Kansas City. But, you know, and then he went and scored the touchdown. But Sutton had 1 or 2 last week.
I don't remember. I won for sure. But
and he had plenty of yardage and more yardage than D-Hop. So it was the right play.
Yep.
So moving on, we've got our tight ends. We've got Taysom Hill. We've got George Kittle, Kelsey, about why I had him in here. Brain fart, obviously. McBride, Bowers, and Njoku. Had I left them off, I probably wouldn't have been able to choose my third player in the stack. I'm going
Eagles.
Triple stack with the Eagles. I'm going with Dallas Goedert. They are the 12th worst for tight ends. And, you know, there wasn't, with 3 games on Thursday and a game today, and obviously those 2 are in there. And, you know, there's only so much you get to choose from. So the 12th defense is right now looking like more of the, you know, second or third maybe. So, you know, Hurts is going to have to throw it somewhere. And if Hurts goes off, it's going to be Brown and Goddard.
Yep. Yeah. Especially if Smith misses, you know, I mean, we've seen a little bit of Jahan Dotson out there. Yeah, exactly. I still have hope. I mean, I thought he was, you know, why they got rid of him when they just drafted Daniels and he still had Terry, and now, you know, it seemed like they've been trying to find, aside from Zach Ertz. I mean, the second option is Zach Ertz in Washington. So, but I mean, you've seen a little bit of Dotson, but not enough to make an indent in Brown or Goddard. When he, you know, I mean, there was at the beginning of the season for the first like 4 weeks, Goddard was like the number 1 fantasy tight end because he had that one giant game with, you know, I can't remember how many yards, but again, you know, beating a dead horse. It's going to be super high scoring, and you know,
I mean, I'm hoping for 75.
Yeah,
in that game, I'm you know, hope it well for AJ Brown.
Yeah,
I don't care about the other guys.
That'd be great. So my pick, I'm going with Pat Freiermuth against Cincinnati. Again, I mean, you know, Pittsburgh's defense is what it is. They're very solid, but, you know, the way the Bengals have been clicking on offense, you know, coming out of the bye, they've had plenty of time to get ready for this game. You know, you got a fully healthy T. Higgins, and, you know, and when Higgins has been healthy, it's been really frustrating as a Higgins manager because you get 2 weeks with him and then you get 3 weeks without him, you know, but when he's been healthy, he's been himself a wide receiver 1 for fantasy, you know, and Jamar Chase, aside from that 50-point, you know, crazy blow-up game he had a couple weeks ago, Chase actually averages more fantasy points when T. Higgins is on the field. Yeah. So it's like 5 more a game or something.
Well, yeah, it's because he actually isn't quadruple covered.
Yep.
I mean, you can't put all defensive backs on Jamar Chase.
Yep. And then you mix in Chase Brown in there as well, coming out of the backfield and, you know, getting receiving work as well. So it makes it very hard.
Too many chases.
It is. Makes it very hard for a team to you know, pick which one you want to, you know, do well, I guess, you know. So, but yeah, so I'm going, you know, like I said, Freiermuth against Cincinnati. You know, their Steelers are going to need to put up some points. And outside of George Pickens, who's the number 2 receiver for Pittsburgh? I mean, Mike Williams, he, you know, came in, but, you know, he had the Like he had a touchdown on one catch his first week,
And
then
really disappeared.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you know, if they're going to want to stick in this game and potentially win, I think
Is
they're going to
Calvin
have to
Austin with them?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he did. He had a decent game. I
Yeah.
think he caught a touchdown last week in that snow game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean,
And that's another thing. I mean, Pittsburgh's going to be coming off the loss.
yeah,
So, you know, they were, to me, they were looking like one of the top 2 or 3 teams in football. And then they got beat by Cleveland.
yep.
So,
Well, so did the Ravens.
no, I know. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
my thought process was, gosh, that's probably a top 3 team. Well, when they lost to Cleveland, they were no longer a top 3
Yeah.
team.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of like if this coming, not this weekend, but next Thursday, if the Packers beat Detroit, Detroit no longer is, in my mind, is no longer a top 3 team. I know you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could still put them up there. I think that just brings Green Bay farther up that list, you know,
Right,
to the top
but
5
you've got-
probably, but
Yeah, but you've
Yeah.
got. I mean, are they bypassing Minnesota? Are they? You know, it's one of those. It's. I mean, that NFC North is just so tough right now. I mean, you almost saw Chicago come back and win that game
against
yesterday,
the Lions, yeah,
but
should have.
poor coaching cost Mr. Eberflus his job.
Yep.
So, but I also think, you know, as a young quarterback, I hope Caleb Williams learned from what he did wrong yesterday, because with 33 seconds left on the clock when he got sacked, and to only get one play away because you blew all of your time changing the play,
Yeah.
that was inconceivable.
Yeah, and you know, you could see on the sideline. You know, I was trying when they replayed it, I was trying to pick out where Eberflus was, and I couldn't quite see him. You know, and it almost looked like he was just standing there watching too.
Well, I
you
think
know.
he
But there were-
expected
yeah.
we've got to play, run the dang play, and then we'll call a timeout.
But at the same time, you're sitting there going, "This is taking a long time."
Yeah,
And then you look, you know,
and
you
he's
look
sitting
up
there
at
making
the screen, and there's 5 seconds left, and he hasn't snapped
6, yeah.
whatever. Immediately, I'm, you know, you're running
but
down
by
the
that
sideline
time,
or whatever.
But by that time, it was too late.
yeah, but
You
it
couldn't
just-
run 2 plays,
No,
but you could have tried a field goal.
exactly. You
Yeah.
tie it, and you go to overtime.
Yeah,
and you just, you know, I mean, you know, in that point, if you're the Bears, I guess I'd be like, we tie it, we go to overtime. We have a solid defense that has been slowing them down a little bit this half. You know, there's a reason why now we're only 3 points behind.
Right, because they were getting crushed.
Yeah, we go into, you know, overtime. You know, whether we get the ball first, you know, if we get the ball first, you know, I mean, Caleb, you know, like I said, rookie still, but
Yeah, you got to.
being the number 1 overall pick and one of the, you know, aside from like Trevor Lawrence when he was coming out of Clemson, one of the more hyped, you know,
Right.
number 1 quarterbacks in the last handful of years. You know, I mean, there was that one where he had, I can't remember who it was coming on a crosser, and Caleb was, granted he was rolling to his left, but he threw it, and it was so far and low. You and I at the same
DJ
time
Moore.
went, "What was that?"
Yeah, DJ
you know,
Moore.
and he had him, and DJ Moore could have easily got a first down and out of bounds.
Right.
You know, so some of it's on Williams in that situation, like you were saying earlier. You know,
I just think you need to be aware.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk out there and you say, okay, I just got sacked. I look up at the clock. I say, I've got 33 seconds. As I get to the line and I'm pulling everybody back to the line, I see that there's 17 seconds or whatever. Then I decide I'm going to change the play call.
Yeah.
And still, no.
Gotta check out. Yeah.
No. At that point, I either should have called a timeout immediately
Or just ran the play that
or
was
ran the play that was called, and whatever it was, then you can still kick the field goal.
Yeah, like I said, I mean that rightfully so. Eberflus got, you know, let go, fired.
Yeah.
But again, some of that blame should be on Caleb because, you know, again, it's inexcusable to have that much time on the clock and at least not have time to attempt a field goal.
Right.
Whether you
to
were
run one play.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I said, when he was tackled, I believe there were 33 seconds. You blew 33 seconds on one play when you had to score a field goal to tie it.
Yep. Yeah. So did you see the Eberflus? I think it was either this morning or last night where he was in the press conference, and the reporter asked like what happened, and he was like, "Oh, I believe we handled that correctly or the right way." He said that.
Oh.
And then I think it was this morning he was on some sort of press conference or something. And he was like, "Yeah, I believe I'll be looking forward to San Francisco and game planning with the team here." And then it was like 2 hours later it came out that he was fired.
I don't know how you think that's going to happen. I get that the Bears had never in their history
That's
fired
probably
a coach
what it was but,
during the season, but don't go out there and act flippant about what you did and how you and your quarterback
It
handled
was the same
play.
thing that happened in the Washington game when they got that Hail Mary. It was the play before that got them closer, and Eberflus, after the game was asked about it, and he was like, "Oh, we didn't think that play really mattered."
Yep.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like
I
'cause
know
they messed up on that one too. So
I know there are a lot of Chicago Bears fans that are happy that he's gone. Hopefully, hopefully Caleb learns from this.
Oh, I think he will.
And then hopefully they bring in someone who can actually get more out of him. And I don't know if it's
I think you need just a strong head coach, and then you need a coordinator. I said, I got my coworker that's a Bears fan, and I brought up he got ran out of town in the last. I think he was in. Where the heck was he? I can't remember exactly where he was last, but Frank Reich.
Yep.
I brought up Reich because he's always the kind of the quarterback, kind of like a Dave Canales, kind of a quarterback whisperer kind of guy.
a Tom Clements.
Sure. I don't even know that name.
Tom Clements is the Packers QB coach.
Oh, jeez. My bad.
Wow. Packer fan, and he doesn't know who the guru, the QB guru is in Green Bay. Wow.
My bad.
Okay. Now he's getting long in the tooth.
Yeah.
I'd almost say, they should try and steal him from Green Bay. I doubt he'd ever go.
Yeah.
I mean, we know how people from Green Bay usually think about the Bears. Mm-hmm. But,
Yeah, but I mean, if you're Chicago and, and again, you look, Caleb Williams, the talent's there, obviously. It's
is.
there. You see it multiple times a game. Their offensive line is absolutely horrible. He's always running for his life.
Yeah, didn't we see yesterday that he was the most sacked quarterback?
Yeah.
This year?
Obviously you got, the weapons there to, all that. Then you look at your defense and you go, our
Good defense.
defensive backfield is crazy good. Linebackers in the line could maybe use a little bit of work. But, if you want a strong head coach that you can bring back, they always like to bring back up the 85 Bears and that defense and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be knocking on Mike Vrabel's door.
Yeah.
If I was Chicago. Be like, what's going on? Because that was the same in Tennessee. It was, run the football and play defense, but they had Derrick Henry. But, I think Vrabel, and then, like I said, you bring in an OC or somebody who can...
A true QB coach.
True QB coach for your offensive coordinator, and I think that would set them up. And then draft a line.
Yeah.
Go and
spend the first rounder this year on the best offensive tackle or lineman that you can get, and maybe bring in another guy in free agency.
Yep, and then you start
because you've got good receivers.
Yeah, then you start the Green Bay process once you get those, and you start getting those guys in the later rounds that you can develop. And again, my coworker is like, "How do you you guys always do this?" And I'm like, "That's been our bread and butter for 30 years now."
We draft 11 people in 7 rounds so that some of those we're taking a chance on. Mm-hmm. We triple down at safety to make sure that we've got guys that we think will be able to do what we need them to do. Mm-hmm. I guess it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but some organizations just really don't get it. Yeah. And the whole idea of continuing to pay people when they're reaching their prime, and there was a time there where we had a top 5 player at QB, running back, tight end, wide receiver, defensive end, defensive tackle, and linebacker or safety, or no, it was Jair. So it was in the, I mean, you can't afford to pay all those guys, because if you do, there went 85% of your salary cap money. And you've got another 48, 50 guys that have to be paid. So, they're on a rookie contract with Caleb. They've got the money to spend right now. A couple of changes, I think they could be, right there with the other 3 teams in the NFC North. Boy, would that be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, imagine next season and the NFC North is, the Bears have, 7 wins instead of what did they have, 5?
4, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine the Bears are in the wild card right now, staring into playoffs. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. and the interesting thing is, you don't know what Minnesota's going to be like.
It's true.
Because
like you said, they brought in, Daniel Jones. I text you, I'd laugh if Sam Darnold ends up a Jet again.
Very well made. But I don't know that Daniel Jones would necessarily be staying there unless he gets the starting job.
That's true. I mean,
so he'll be gone.
Yeah,
because J.J. McCarthy is going to be the quarterback.
I could see them rolling Daniel Jones out to start the season, and then bringing J.J. in slowly. But
maybe. But I thought that Rodgers was going to Minnesota to start for that bridge year.
It's not going to happen.
Okay,
it's not going to happen.
You tell me that.
History won't repeat itself.
Okay. I've already got my 2035 Jordan Love Minnesota jersey.
Oh, wow.
Throw a wild one out there.
If Rodgers did end up in Minnesota, then I'd believe that. But I'm not believing it until it happens.
Okay, well, I'm trying.
Yeah.
So I dropped our love them, flip them, leave them, because we don't have any. I mean, the trade deadlines are over with, so it really doesn't behoove us to discuss it any longer in the season. So that's pretty much all we've got. Hopefully, you haven't had your complete fill of football yet, because there are still games on Sunday and Sunday afternoon and Sunday night and Monday night.
It's the best time of the year.
Well, it is, but to have already had 4 games, I mean, that's crazy. It really is.
Well, like I said, it's Friday. It feels like a Saturday, because obviously you had Thanksgiving yesterday.
Well, and the Badgers played today, which is odd, because they normally play on Saturday.
Yep. Yeah.
And you had football today.
Yep.
And it's I'm kind of confused. I'm not sure what day it is. I'll be confused probably the rest of my life, so it doesn't really matter. So anyway, I am Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great week.
See ya.